Very quick video and commentary here. I'm kind of having a break from regular video production, but I'm always working on a few things in the background. I did get back down my usual beach earlier in January. This is the triple motor craft, which you've seen before if you've followed my channel. I thought I would test it with Outboard Wings just because I didn't think they'd have much benefit. And indeed they didn't really, but it was still worth trying. When I'm looking over my designs, I've always thought, are they thrust limited or stability limited? The older design, this is thrust limited, i.e. it's so slow it can't go fast enough to actually become unstable and flip or otherwise destabilise. The older triple motor design, which just stuck on a big motor propeller and a not very large stabiliser, this was definitely stability limited. It would go faster if it wouldn't destabilise. The current triple motor without any outboard wings is pretty much balanced. At its top speed it is just riding on the edge of pitch stability. Having added the wings on, the first thing I notice is less hover height because there's more weight, and the second thing I notice is definitely slower because of the drag. And it is more stable, yes. It's more stable because the speed has been reduced to the point it would be stable without the wings anyway. Think about that for a second. So the wings, as I've done here, I don't see the point. Doesn't mean outboard wings are completely pointless on this design. There's two ways I could go with it. If I increased motor thrust even further, it would be beneficial to have the wings. It would be overall faster because the drag of the wings is offset by them stabilising the pitch enough that it can actually usefully go faster. And I'm imagining kind of modular motor mount where you can run the small booster without the wings and put on a larger motor in the wings if you want to run that way. The other thing I considered was to reduce the wings, make them just stubby wings, just a little bit of extra pitch stability with very little extra drag may help this design out a little bit, maybe next time. The only other design change I'd really make is I think I'd remove the subflap. Just for reference, that's the movable flap on the rear flap. An obvious question if you don't know is why is it there to begin with? Well, one type of flap you can have is a plain flap which I use on the single motor build. Very simple, rugged, it gives you a nice clean air jet exiting for propulsion. The only issue is if you want to hover on the spot, you basically have to close up that jet and the thing will sit pointing nose up, which doesn't look great, and you could argue the purpose of a hovercraft isn't to sit hovering on the spot, it's to move. So as soon as you open up that flap, it doesn't really matter anymore. Nevertheless, the full peripheral jet gives you a better hover height, better very low speed and stationary performance. The idea of the subflap being you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have your good slow speed stationary hover height but also pivot it out the way for good propulsion. It's not that it's a bad idea, quite a good idea if I say so myself. It's just very fragile. Pretty much every time I've had this design out, it tends to get caught on the ground or otherwise damaged. I was thinking of a kind of spring-loaded or flexible linkage, a bit like a servo saver on RC cars, where there's enough strength in the linkage that the servo can close up that flap, but were it to catch the ground it would pivot back and not just push against the servo and brake. Having thought about it more and more, I just think I might take the subflap off this design. I'm really questioning if there's any point in it. It saves a little bit of weight, it saves a control channel, and it saves a kind of perennial point of failure. Must be said, running down the beach here is definitely quite hard on the model. If you've built this design, I wouldn't immediately rip off the subflap just because I'm telling you to right now. I'm just thinking it's maybe, depending on the design, you might have it on or off or modular. Other than that, I just had some good, clean fun sliding the thing about the place. I keep forgetting this design can go directly sideways and the other one can't. It's more like a kind of car, just forwards, turning. This thing can go directly sideways and diagonally, but I tended to forget it can do that. As I say, just a quick video. I am slowly continuing with others in the background. I've got more ground effect rotor tests built, even more data for you, but again it's kind of on hold just now, so don't watch this space.